So once Srila Guru Maharaj said that the importance of giving, learning to give, is such that there's a Bengali saying, if you can't give anything else, then learn to give ashes. Right? You know, ashes, the remains of a fire. Because ash, they use it in India for cleaning things. But obviously it's not a very difficult thing to part with. But so he's making the point, the least thing you can train your hand in the gesture of giving, begin somewhere to learn to give something. Just like children, we sometimes, the mother or the father will tell the child, give this to your auntie, or give this to grandma. And then the child comes forward, and then they give something and run back and hide behind their mother's skirt. So what they're doing is learning how to give things. They're just following the advice of their loving, affectionate guardian, in that case their mother, father, whatever. But the idea is that in time, this gesture of giving will go from more than a gesture to become something meaningful, where actually on their own, they will conceive of offering something, giving something. So, as we mentioned earlier today, when Srila Guru Maharaj was asked about Chaturmasya and told about giving things up for the 4-month period. And he said, that is a less important thing. The idea is to bring you to the point of self-giving, right? It's easy to give up things or to give other substances. But the whole point of this, he said, it's targeting different mentalities to try and bring you in the direction of giving yourself, offering yourself. And one of Krishna's names is Bhavagrahi Janardana. Bhav means heart, sometimes rendered as mood, feeling this, that, but really on a finer rendering, it's heart. Bhav means heart. So it says Bhavagrahi Janardana means Krishna, he's a bhav consumer. That feeling in the heart, Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhakta prayachati tadaham bhakta upahritam ashnami prayatatmanaha. It's mentioned where he says, offer me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, and water, I will accept it. Right? But the key word is with some feeling, some affection, some love and affection, then I will accept it. Just offering these things mindlessly or heartlessly, it's not that Krishna is interested in receiving them. But when they're saturated with a particular quality, then it becomes attractive to him. Sri Krishna Karshini Chasa. Rupa Goswami says, although Krishna is all attractive, right, like as in Madan Mohan, he's seductively attracting everyone by his beauty, charm, and sweetness to do what? To offer themselves to him. Right? Jiva Goswami says, Bhajaniya Sarvasad Guna Vishishta, when he's defining what is Bhagavan proper, what is the proper definition of God in the Bhagavan conception, that coming in connection with him or coming within his relativity, you automatically feel compelled to offer yourself. Right? Srimati Radharani, as we're told, her name is not ostensibly, is not mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But in one place it says, Anaya Radita Nunam, or Aradita. So at the basis of this is Aradhana, means her method of worship is offering herself. Of course, herself being the supreme negative counterpart to Krishna's supreme positive, she has infinite capacity to offer herself and service. But what makes it substantial is heart. Her heart, she's giving herself. So Srila Guru Maharaj, quoting Prahlad from the 7th canto about different types of giving, and in the famous Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, outlining the 9 different types, Navabhakti, hearing, chanting, remembering, etc. It ends on Atma Nivedanam or Atma Samarpanam, self-giving. Bali Maharaj and the Vaman avatar. We know the history. It's mentioned in the Vedas. It says, Adbhutakram, referring to Krishna, his various incarnations. It says, he of wonderful stride, or he of wonderful step. Right? That's all it says in the Vedas. This is an interesting side point. The Vedas, we take it to be the first revealed truths, scriptures in the creation. Right? But Puranas, in a chronological sense, appear after the Vedas. So, but at the same time, they have more extensive revealed truth than Veda. So this is very peculiar and very interesting. If the Vedas come first, we're thinking, well, they're primary, they've got everything. And then the Puranas, they supplement the Vedas. That's not untrue, but more to the point, Guru Maharaj presents it in this way. Purana, we can take 2 meanings. One is fulfillment, to fulfill. So they're fulfilling what's been mentioned in the Vedas. And, or in other words, expressing fully what may have been indicated there in a concise or condensed in a seed-like reference. And another meaning of Purana is old, right? Older. So if the Vedas come first and the Puranas come later, how can they be older? In this way, Guru said, they have knowledge, information, revealed truth from previous creations. So Veda comes with this creation, but Purana has information from past creations. Then we say, well, how is that possible? Well, there's some rishis, they were in another Brahmana in a previous creation. So they say, oh, there was a very interesting thing happen during this one creation. And I'll tell you the story now. So the rishis, Guru Maharaj says, it's like the mantram is passing through their consciousness and entering these planes. So revealed truth is passing through their consciousness and entering here. They're observers. As one literary critic pointed out, he said, inspiration means influence. When you're inspired to express something, it means you're under the influence of another. And here, when we say rishi, drishi, those who are seeing, experiencing the truth, they're under the influence of divine revelation, and it's passing through their consciousness and being vented in the form of various types of revealed truth. Whereas the Veda says, Adbhutakram, he of wonderful stride, and the Puranas we hear about the Vaman avatar. And we know that at one point he appears as a dwarf. Like people are always asking, what can God do or God cannot do? So all the pastimes are very peculiar of actual divinity. As I told recently, in the Kurma avatar, he appears as a turtle, can't scratch his own back, right? Who's omnipotent, whose reach is infinite. He can't scratch his own back. So that requires the assistance of others. And it turns into divine pastimes. So in Vaman avatar, you could maybe get a hint of what's going to happen because he appears as a dwarf. So what can we understand about the dwarf? His stride should be the least, right? His walking ability, his step would be the smallest. So maybe there's a hint at what's about to take place. So where it describes, he of wonderful stride, a wonderful, wonderful step. When Bali Maharaj consents to offer Vaman Dev 3 steps of land, told with the first step, his dwarf stepping ability expands unlimitedly, and he covers from the lower to the middle planetary systems. And his second step, he covers the rest of the universe. So in 2 steps, he's already covered everything. So what does he do with the 3rd step? It's Atma Nivedanam, Atma Samarpanam, which was the goal anyway. As Bali Maharaj offers himself, right? When Vaman says, well, I've already covered everything in 2 steps, but you owe me 1 more. What shall I do with my 3rd step? Bali Maharaj says, my Lord, put your lotus feet on my head. I'm offering myself to you. Right? So this is the thread that's connecting everything, is self-giving. If you want to find the connecting principle throughout all of this, whatever's being advised, whatever's being recommended, whatever mentality is being targeted, is to bring you to the position of offering yourself. So at first we may learn to offer other things, right? That we've acquired within the world of exploitation. Offer this, offer that, it'll be acceptable. But it's all meant to bring us to that point of offering ourselves. So when we'll say, how, and your question, how do we begin? Where do we begin? Stane stita shrutikatam tanuvan manobir. By hearing from authorized agents of the Absolute, by hearing from them. And Prabhupada says something interesting in the Bhagavatam, that says the words of pure devotee are saturated with the saffron mercy particles that are decorating the lotus feet of Krishna. There's some special spiritual potency and divine sound vibration. So hearing that sound with those saffron mercy particles is entering the heart through the channel of the ear. Right? And the heart is getting some impression from that. But these impressions are not like what we call samskar, impressions life after life after life after life of mundane experience that are forming a kind of covering of the soul, which is the heart, the core of consciousness. Right? The deep heart's core. Sometimes the poets speak in that way. In other words, there's superficial heart, deep heart core. The deep heart core is right now enveloped in a series of acquired prejudice and impressions over so many lifetimes. So the Bhagavatam says, Bridite hridaya granti, Chidyante sarva samshaya, chiyante chasya karmani, drishtva, drishman evat manishwari, or what was another one? Sarva akilatmani, mai sarve akilatmani. That when we understand that Krishna is Anandam, his happiness, that actually Anandam Brahmano Vidvan, no, the whole world, everything is really Anandam oriented, Anandam at the center, happiness, not pain, not anxiety, not suffering, but just the opposite, Anandam. When we come to realize that and cut the knots that have a stranglehold on the heart, all the ties that we've made within this world. I'll make a connection here, I'll make a connection there, trying to realize myself, find self-fulfillment. When all of them are cut, then we're told the heart's natural flow, the heart's natural ability to love, like give heart, receive heart, according to Guru Maharaj, then it'll be awakened at that time. But when he spoke this particular aphorism, he said to me, he said, we're all familiar with the expression, no risk, no gain, right? If you're going to gain something, you have to take some risk. So at the time, I was very sort of pleased with myself about that. And I thought, yeah, I risked everything to be with you, to come in connection with your holy lotus feet, and now I've gained everything. So I was very proud and happy, like, yes, I know that very well. No risk, no gain. And I myself am, such a sterling example of that. And then Guru Maharaj knew he had me, like, primed for what he was about to say. Because I'm sitting there, and he said, but there is a higher stage. And I'm like, what? And he said, all risk and no gain. And I had to think for a minute, like, did I just hear what he said? All risk and no gain. And he could see the bewildered look on my face. He said, are you ready for that? You'll risk everything and gain nothing. And then I thought, I'm just trying to think, and I'm unable to process this entirely. And then now I'm totally bewildered, and Guru Maharaj is smiling. And he said, that is the position of the Braja Gopis. They risk everything with no anticipation of gain. That's the highest standard. They're not calculating self-interest. They're not calculating what they will get from doing this. Just, what is it? Bhajaniya sarvashad guna vishishta. They're irresistibly drawn to Krishna to offer themselves. Just like, and the parallel, a mundane parallel in this world, when someone in romantic love, when they become enamored by another person without thinking about all these things, automatically they're giving themselves to that person. Even more so than wanting to consume someone or something, we're actually searching for someone to offer ourselves to give ourselves to. But because we've been deceived so many times, and we have a strong tendency ourselves toward self-deception, we're reluctant, right? And so we're keeping the heart sheltered, cloistered, covered, and afraid to give ourselves, to offer ourselves. Whereas at the heart of Krishna conception is the idea that ahoy tuki apratyata, as expressed in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, causeless and irresistible. I remember the first time I heard Guru Maharaj say irresistible, I had to be sure and certain that he was saying that word. So I asked him a few times, are you saying irresistible? And that's what he kept saying. Yes, because the Bengali is like irresistible. Whatever, I'm not going to do a Bengali impersonation right now. But anyway, he made it clear, I'm saying irresistible. You will not be able to contain yourself. You'll automatically want to give yourself to Krishna. That's all attractive Krishna, right? Drawing everyone to the center irresistibly. Causelessly, in a sense, reality is for itself and by itself. I say there's nothing that can cause this to happen. Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya. But only someone who has devotion, in connection with them, they can awaken devotional tendencies within us. And by serving them, the type of devotion that is within their hearts will be awakened within our hearts. So anyway, Srila Guru Maharaj said, all risk and no gain. Are you ready for that? And now I was just totally bewildered. I don't know what I'm agreeing to. Right? And then he began to explain. He said, all risk and no gain, because you think that this world is something substantial. And you think that spiritual life and spiritual reality is insubstantial. It's just something abstract. People are talking about it. Can you prove it? This, that. So we're very suspicious of the spiritual reality. But this world, because you can knock on it, you can walk on it, you can, manipulate it in various ways. We think this is the solid, substantial plane. Although even according to science, it's constantly in motion, and also according to science, there will come a time where all of this vanishes, right, and enters some kind of nebulous state. And according to Veda, it'll again express itself. Bhutva, bhutva praliyate. It manifests for some time, is all disintegrated and withdrawn, and then manifests again. So even though we know that that's really the nature of this world, and everything we see here has only appeared for a brief time and will vanish in time, we're still thinking, this is the solid world with a strong foundation, and this spiritual world that we're hearing about in spiritual conception is very tentative, it's abstract, we're not sure, we'll have to examine it more, look at the fine print, etc. So he said, that's why it's all risk and no gain. You think, all of this that I've accumulated here in the world of exploitation, the energy that I've accumulated, I'm going to risk all of this in service to Krishna, which seems to be something abstract and not palpable, inaccessible, etc. Saying, but just as when you go east, automatically you're withdrawing from west, as you engage in the process of self-surrender, gradually you'll begin to perceive this world and everything in it is insubstantial. And actually what I'm coming in connection with in the Krishna conscious world is real and substantial. So then the transition takes place. So Guru Maharaj said, what initially seemed to be a proposition of all risk and no gain, in the end becomes all gain and no risk. Because whatever was gathered here in the temporary world is not substantial to begin with. So what did you really risk? Nothing. And you gained everything in the process. So in the end, all risk and no gain turns into all gain and no risk. But how to proceed in that direction, if this concept awakens in the heart a little sense of potential, of possibility, then under the guidance of Sadhu Shastra Guru Vaishnava, we try to make some progress. And so we're trained in the beginning to learn to offer things. And at the basis of that, really at the basis of any offering, Sridhar Swami says in commenting on the Shravanam Kirtanam section of the 7th canto, what is it? Ado arpita paschad kriyeta. Whether it's hearing, chanting, remembering, etc., at the basis of all of this should be that it's being an offering to Krishna, beginning, middle, and end. Not the idea that when we reach the end, we'll give something to Krishna. He's saying beginning, middle, and end. If it's in pure devotion, it's for Krishna, on Krishna's account. So sometimes Srila Guru Maharaj will say, quoting his godbrother, Professor Sanyal, that he explained to him that he said, if I go to read he took an example of something that would be very meaningful to devotees. He said, if I read the Bhagavatam on my own, right, at my own initiated by me, I go to read the Bhagavatam. Oh, the Bhagavatam, that's great, The Bhagavatam, Krishne Swadhamo Bhagate Jnana Dibik, Dharma Jnana Dibiksaha, Kalo Nashta Drishamesha, Puranarko Dunodataha. The Bhagavatam is giving, in the darkness of the Kali Yuga, it's illuminating everywhere. How can that be a bad thing? He's saying, if I go to do it on my own initiative, myself, it may be karma, it may be vikarma. Right? Not only karma, but like undesirable or negative. Right? He said, whereas if I'm reading the Bhagavatam under the guidance of the Vaishnava or under the order of the Vaishnava, then it may be devotion. So both cases reading the Bhagavatam, but in one case on the order and under the guidance of the Vaishnava, it's yielding spiritual substance, and then the other instance, it's taking one actually away from Krishna conception. It's very interesting, right? Sanatana Goswami has a famous sloka where he says, Avaishnava mukod girnam putam harikatamritam sravanam naiva kartavyam sarpo chistam yatapayo. That he says, don't hear Krishna Katha from a Vaishnava, means a non-devotee, not a proper Vaishnava. And we'll think, well, wait a minute. Harikatha, harikatamritam, tavakatamritam tapta jivanam kavibir idisham kalmasha apaham sravanamangalam srimaratatam bhuvi granantite buridajana. In the Gopi Gita, it says that topics of Krishna are life-giving nectar that will save people from all inauspiciousness in their life, and so many wonderful things. And here Sanatana Goswami says, don't hear that from the wrong source. Right? And what's the consequence? It says, sarpo chistam yatapayo. Shravanam naiva kartavyam sarpo chistam yata. He compares it to milk touched by the lips of a serpent becomes poisonous. So he's saying, although this is a ostensibly nectarine substance, when contaminated by the motive, ulterior motive of the deliverer of that substance, it turns into another substance. It's not the same. Right? And Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj is a great example. When we hear there was one professional reciter of the Bhagavatam who wanted to add to his resume, I've spoken Srimad Bhagavatam before Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj. So people can read that and go, oh, I'm very impressed, we'll hire you. Right? So he is pushing for this. Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj is resisting, but somehow it was arranged. And so Babaji Maharaj had to sit through this. He's sitting there, this man's reading the Bhagavatam, giving his explanations. Then afterwards, all the people are very excited. And Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj says, bring me some cow dung and some cow urine. I mean, what? He goes, we need to cleanse this place. So that's the system, the ancient Vedic system to purify an area. Cow dung, when some place has really been contaminated, you put cow dung and cow urine. So the thing, but Babaji Maharaj, the Bhagavatam was just spoken here. And we hear in the scriptures, wherever it's spoken, the speaker is purified, the listener is purified, the inquirer is purified, the audience is purified, and the very place where the transaction took place is also purified. So why do you want us to purify this place? And he said, you heard Bhagavatam. All I heard was money, money, money. So someone who was there could say, the man didn't mention anything about money. I can testify. All he did was speak on the Bhagavatam. But what Babaji Maharaj was addressing was his ulterior motive for doing that. His ulterior motive was to make money from it. Right? So although literally he was speaking those sounds, those slokas, there was no genuine spiritual substance there to a connoisseur of spiritual substance, namely Gaura Das Babaji Maharaj. As Guru Maharaj says in his Bhaktavadutta Murtiye. Isn't it? Radha Padma Bringaya. You know? Huh? Radha Bhava Nishevane. So, Rupa Goswami says, Anya Bilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadyanavratam Anukulyena Krishnano Shilanam Bhakti Rutama. Anya Abhilash Shunyam. Other desire, pure devotion is qualified as no other desires, or in this case, ulterior motive for doing that. So we can say, by observation and by personal experience, oh, but we're like that. We have ulterior motives. So what hope is there for us of coming to the platform of pure devotion? The Bhagavatam also addresses that answer by saying, Akama sarva kama va moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yojeta purusham param. Whether you're akama, desireless, sarva kama, full of desires, moksha kama, desiring liberation, whatever your position is, just come in connection with Krishna, Krishna conception. Just begin hearing about Krishna. No, but you got to understand my situation. Let me tell you about what my life is like. It's saying, no, don't worry about that. That's irrelevant to the nature of this divine substance. If you just come in connection with it, whatever your relative circumstances is irrelevant. It won't affect this, right? And you'll become properly adjusted in time. Like we hear Dhruva Maharaj talk about, like big desires. He found out when he's playing with children of the king, like princes, that he is the son of a maidservant and the other boys are princes. So they're making fun of him. Right? If you can understand the situation, right? So he asks his mother about this, and he's only 5 years old. She explains the situation as best she can to a 5-year-old child. So then he's thinking, well, I want to get a kingdom greater than the king and all these things. Finally, he understands that Brahma, the Lord of the universe, is connected to the situation. And he's saying, I want a kingdom greater than his, right? Greater than the creator of the universe. So his mother's saying, well, son, the only person who could help you with something like that is God. And Dhruva was saying, where is this God? And she said, well, we've heard from great saintly persons that he resides, that you can find him in the depths of the forest. So he's like, he goes off to he's in the forest. He's 5 years old, but very serious. Then Narada comes, gives him some instructions. He begins his meditation. And the power is so great, he stops the universal breathing, the air. There's, an overwhelming environmental effect of his austerities and spiritual performance. And he is meditating on the Lord in his heart. And then he sees the Lord in his heart in his meditation. And he's very pleased and very happy to have that divine vision. And suddenly it vanishes. And he is brokenhearted, disappointed. And then he opens his eyes and he sees whom he was meditating upon within his heart has now appeared before him. So he's ecstatic. And in the famous sloka of Dhruva, what did he say? Swamin Kritartosmi Brahma Jache. No, is that Prahlad? Anyway, I can't remember. But he says, I was searching for broken pieces of glass, shards of glass, and now I found the most valuable gem. So it's a classic example of someone filled with intense mundane desire, but when he finally came in connection with Krishna conception, that became meaningless to him. And he compared, whatever I wanted before was like a broken piece of glass, and now I have the most valuable gem. So in all these different circumstances and situations, we're advised to just move in the direction of Krishna conception. As the words of the scriptures, of sadhu, of shastra, guru, the Vaishnavas touch our hearts, then we should respond to that by moving in the direction of Krishna conception. And all of these things about how we'll become more dedicated, learn to give ourselves, learn to offer ourselves, sadhu sangha satovare, that will all be acquired in the association of devotees and superior devotees. So the Bhagavatam says, Sangsaresmin kanadopi satsanga sevadirninam. The most, sevadir here means treasure. The most valuable treasure you can get in life, in the world, in existence, is the association of genuine devotees. So whatever we find absent in ourselves, that can be a healthy recognition of our actual position and situation. So we don't put faith, we're not humanists and we believe in ourselves and self-potential and all that. But actually, we believe in the Vaishnava. Yogyata vichari kichu nahi pai tomara karunasar. If you examine me, you'll see no good qualities, but by the mercy of Guru and Vaishnava, some substance can come to me. So the Vaishnavas, it's interesting, when they inquire from one another about their well-being, they'll say, how are you? They say, as you keep me, as I am within you, that's how I am. Don't ask me how I am. And I've mentioned, when I ask Mangal Maharaj, and then I'll go, Mangal Maharaj, how are you? He'll go, I don't know. Right? He means, you, or in this sense, the Vaishnavas, they know how I am. I'm not going to give an assessment of myself. But on the basis of those who are substantial, Vaishnavi Pratishta Tate Koro Nishta, right, we're concerned what their opinion is, not even our own opinion of ourselves. Right? How they see us, that is our welfare. We're being maintained, nourished by their vision of our spiritual potential. And that's real. Our own assessment of ourselves, even if it's brutally honest, is of the false self. Just as Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions, with water, when it's frozen, it's in an unnatural state, then you can observe so many characteristics. When it's ice, well, it's hard, it's like this, you can, and all of those seem to be legitimate observations of its condition. It's ice-like. Right? But that's not its natural condition. when it enters its natural condition, all those observations you made that were realistic in the temporary state, they're meaningless. They're no longer applicable. So we're making observations about ourselves in that ice-like frozen state. So they seem to be very accurate. But Guru and Vaishnav, they're dealing with us in terms of our spiritual potential, our reality potential, not our unreality observations. But what is our reality potential, which means as a servitor, a loving servitor, they're making observations of that and projections based upon that. And so believing in the superiority of their vision to see beyond external observations and get at the heart of the matter, devotional tendency, we move under their guidance and direction. So once, Srila Guru Maharaj and Srila Gurudev, they offered some praise to me. Maybe it was in relation to the publications of Guardian of Devotion Press. It doesn't matter. It happened at different times. Once I told him, I said, so many others deserve credit. It's a group effort. And Guru Maharaj said, yes, but you know who. So I'm giving all this to you. Now you distribute to the worthy recipients. But at any rate, so they're saying some things to me, and I thought at one point to Gurudev that it was too much, what was being expressed. And rather insensitively, I suggested to Srila Gurudev, I said, Maharaj, if you could tone it down a little bit. And he was so hurt. He said, what? He said, I'm practicing my religion. I'm not exaggerating. This is what I believe. It's not just flattery, meaningless flattery, but it's what I believe in my heart. And so I went to my room on this particular occasion and I thought, all right, I have some idea of who I am by being myself and aware of my internal dialogue and history and all of these things. So I have one assessment. But then there's the vision of Srila Guru Maharaj and Srila Gurudev. So I said, at this point, I thought, well, what if, from relative perspective, both are true? From my perspective, I'm seeing the negatives and acknowledging and aware of the negatives. But they're choosing to emphasize positive connection and reality potential of a servitor. So then I pose this question: who has a more realistic assessment of who I am? Me or them? Who can actually see who I really am? Me or them? And I decided, I believe in their vision of who I am and what my reality potential is, while acknowledging I have my own assessment of myself, my candid, honest, ruthless observations of a self based on acquired prejudice. So if we hope to move away from that and towards this real self and realize that reality potential, then we proceed according to the guidance of Sadhu, Shastra, and Guru, Vaishnava, and gradually make progress. But it will be an honest position to recognize, oh, I'm unable to do this, or it seems hopeless or impossible from my present position. So therefore, I need to take shelter and accept guidance. Then I can have some faith in the outcome, that it won't be something that I initiated, but rather I'm proceeding under the order of Guru and Vaishnava, so it can be devotion and develop devotional tendencies.